Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Sergeant Timothy Parati. I'm the Media Relations Officer for the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team. I'm joined today by Assistant Commissioner David Tabould, Federal Policing Officer in Charge, Pacific Region, Superintendent Mandeep Mukher, Officer in Charge of the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team, Assistant Commissioner Brian Edwards, Officer in Charge of the Surrey RCMP Detachment, and Corporal Sarbjeet Sangha, Media Relations Officer with the Surrey RCMP Detachment. We're here today to provide an update regarding the investigation into the homicide of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Statements will be read by Assistant Commissioner Tabould and Superintendent Mukher, both of which will also be read in French. Following the statements and comments by Assistant Commissioner Edwards, there will be a question and answer period. Corporal Sangha is available to assist with any questions requiring Punjabi translation. Le commissaire adjoint Tabould et le superintendent Mukher liront tout d'abord des déclarations en anglais, puis en français. Following the question and answer period, myself and Assistant Commissioner Tabould will be available to answer questions in French, while Corporal Sangha will be available to answer in Punjabi. Après la période de questions, la commissaire adjoint Tabould et moi-même seront à votre disposition pour répondre aux questions, à toutes questions en français. I'll now turn the microphone over to Assistant Commissioner Tabould.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I am Assistant Commissioner David Tabould, Commander of the Federal Policing Program in the Pacific Region. Bonjour et merci de vous être joint à nous aujourd'hui. Je suis le commissaire adjoint David Tabould, chef du programme de la police fédérale de la région du Pacifique. Si vous avez des questions en français, s'il vous plaît, n'hésitez pas à les poser. Today we are here to announce significant developments about the investigation into the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar that took place on June 18, 2023 in Surrey, BC. Following many months of investigative work by the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team, with close collaboration and assistance from the Federal Policing Program in BC, RCMP National Headquarters, the Surrey RCMP Detachment, and other partner agencies, 3 suspects have been arrested and charged for their alleged involvement in the killing of Mr. Nijjar. Now, with unequivocal commitment to the administration of justice and with reverence to the upcoming judicial process on this matter, we are not able to make any comments about the nature of the evidence collected by police, nor can we speak about the motive behind the murder of Mr. Nijjar. However, understanding this situation has attracted considerable and very broad public interest, I will say this matter is still very much under active investigation. I will underscore that today's announcements are not a complete account of the investigative work currently underway. There are separate and distinct investigations ongoing into these matters, certainly not limited to the involvement of the people arrested today, and these efforts include investigating connections to the Government of India. The RCMP Federal Policing Program, IHIT, our municipal partner agencies, are responsible for protecting Canadians from the most serious criminal threats posed by domestic and international criminals. Today's enforcement actions demonstrate our relentless commitment and ability to combat the most sophisticated threats and complex criminality facing our nation. Here today we have Assistant Commissioner Brian Edwards, Officer in charge of the Surrey RCMP, who will be available with Superintendent Mukher and I to answer any questions you may have at the conclusions of this press briefing. But first, I would like to congratulate the men and women of IHIT for the outstanding dedication and the results achieved. I would also like to thank the RCMP National Security Program, particularly here in BC, for their unparalleled work ethics and dedication to serve our country on the separate investigative efforts underway. And also thank Surrey Detachment for their continued and seamless collaboration and support. The commitment and skills of these investigators are second to none, and I'm very proud of their work and their accomplishment. Nous sommes ici pour vous informer de progrès importants dans l'enquête sur le meurtre de M. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, qui a eu lieu le 18 juin 2023 à Surrey, en Colombie-Britannique. À la suite d'une enquête qui s'est étendue sur de nombreux mois, menée par l'équipe intégrée d'enquête sur les homicides, avec la collaboration et l'assistance de membres du programme de la police fédérale en Colombie-Britannique, la direction générale de la GRC, le détachement de la GRC de Surrey et d'autres organismes partenaires, 3 suspects ont été arrêtés et des accusations ont été déposées contre eux relativement à leur implication présumée dans le meurtre de M. Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Aujourd'hui, en raison de notre engagement sans équivoque envers l'administration de la justice et par respect pour la poursuite judiciaire à venir sur cette affaire, nous ne sommes pas en mesure de faire des commentaires sur la nature des preuves recueillies par la police, ni de parler du mobile du meurtre de M. Nijjar. Toutefois, étant donné que l'affaire a suscité un intérêt considérable de la part du grand public, je peux vous dire que l'enquête se poursuit. Je tiens à souligner que l'annonce aujourd'hui ne constitue pas un compte-rendu complet du travail d'enquête couramment en cours. Des enquêtes distinctes sont actuellement menées sur différents dossiers, aspects du dossier, qui ne se limitent certainement pas à l'implication des personnes arrêtées aujourd'hui, dont un examen portant sur l'implication du gouvernement de l'Inde. Le programme de la police fédérale de la GRC et l'équipe intégrée d'enquête sur les homicides, nos organismes municipaux partenaires, ont la responsabilité de protéger la population canadienne contre les menaces graves que posent les criminels nationaux et internationaux. Les mesures prises aujourd'hui démontrent notre engagement et notre capacité à combattre les menaces criminelles les plus sophistiquées et les plus complexes auxquelles notre pays fait face. Le commissaire adjoint Brian Edwards, officier responsable du détachement de Surrey, en compagnie du surintendant Mooker et moi-même, seront à votre disposition pour répondre à toutes les questions que vous pourriez avoir à la fin de ce point de presse. Tout d'abord, je voudrais féliciter les membres de l'équipe intégrée d'enquête sur les homicides pour leur dévouement exceptionnel et pour le travail qu'ils ont accompli dans le cadre de cette affaire. Je tiens également à remercier les membres du programme de sécurité nationale de la GRC, en particulier ici en Colombie-Britannique, pour leur éthique de travail inégalée et leur dévouement au service de notre pays dans le cadre de différentes enquêtes en cours, ainsi que le détachement de la GRC pour sa collaboration et son soutien continu et sans faille. La détermination et les compétences de ces enquêteurs sont sans pareil, et je suis très fier de leur travail et de leur réalisation. I will now invite Superintendent Mooker, who will provide you with additional details of this investigation into the murder of Mr. Nijjar. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Superintendent Hardeep Mooker, and I'm the officer in charge of the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team. On June 18th, 2023, Hardeep Singh Nijjar was fatally shot and killed as he departed Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey. Shortly thereafter, I was called into conduct of this investigation. Over the past 10 months, I has led an investigation in partnership with internal and external partners to advance this investigation. Through complex investigative techniques and tremendous support from the community, we were able to gather significant evidence that led us to the individuals that were responsible for this homicide. I'm here today to announce that we arrested and charged 3 individuals for first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder in relation to Hardeep Nijjar's homicide. I-8 investigators, along with Edmonton Police Services, and numerous other RCMP resources, took custody of all 3 of these individuals in Edmonton, Alberta. The following 3 individuals were charged for this homicide. 22-year-old Garn Brar, who's an Indian national, who is residing in Edmonton, Alberta. 22-year-old Kamalpreet Singh, who is an Indian national, who is also residing in Edmonton, Alberta. 28-year-old Garnpreet Singh, who is also an Indian national, residing in Edmonton, Alberta. We will be disseminating photos of these accused men in hopes of any information in relation to their presence in Surrey during the time of the offense. This investigation does not end here. We are aware that others may have played a role in this homicide, and we remain dedicated to finding and arresting each one of these individuals. At this time, I want to take a moment to recognize and thank CFSU BC, Edmonton Police Service, and Surrey RCMP Detachment for their unwavering dedication from the onset of this investigation. I would also like to thank the Nijjar family, the citizens of Surrey, and the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara Executive for their patience and understanding. We understand that the community is going to have a lot of questions. However, at this time, as this process is going through the court process, we may not be able to answer all the questions. In closing, I would like to say how proud I am of the IHIT investigative team, along with the investigative support unit, for their dedication and determination, and to continue this file to find out everyone that was responsible for the murder of Hardeep Nijjar. I'd like to pass on now to Assistant Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone that is here. My comments will be brief. The murder of Mr. Nijjar at the Scott Road Gurdwara was outrageous and it was reprehensible. It had a profound impact on the residents of Surrey, and notwithstanding today the announcing of charges, those scars will remain in our community for some time. However, I want to share this, that from day one, this community came forward to work with and alongside the police in advancing this investigation. Critically important was the executive of the Scott Road Gurdwara, whom I met on July 19th, 2023, approximately 1 month after the murder of Mr. Nijjar. Despite their intense grief and pain, those representatives of our community, they provided their support, their patience, and their trust in the police to move this forward. Investigations in Canada are complex, and they're very, very onerous, and they take time. As such, the support from those individuals and the community at large was essential in getting it to where we are today. So the message that I want to end with is this. Our community is extremely strong. It won't be intimidated, and this community will work with the police and alongside the police to hold offenders accountable. We would not be here today if that wasn't the case. Thank you.
I'll now open up to a question and answer period. Before we take the first question, we'll just have some ground rules. Please state your name and who you'd like to direct your question to. If you'd like to ask your question in Punjabi, what we'll do is have Corporal Sangha come up, repeat the question in English to whoever it's addressed to, and then she can translate the answer back into Punjabi. So we can start with whoever's first here. Yes, if you like.
Just to Superintendent Muka, you were just mentioning pictures coming out and you want some more assistance from the community. Can you expand on exactly what you're looking for now?
So anyone that had contact with these individuals during the time of the offense, which would be in June 2023 in the Surrey area, if you have any interaction with them or you observed them, we're asking that you call the IHIT tip line and relate that information to us in the hopes of building a timeline.
There are some sources that are reporting that these suspects are also linked to other murders, including that of an 11-year-old. Can you speak to that? Is there anything that you can provide us?
Unfortunately, those are different investigations that we are not currently a part of. However, we are coordinating with all agencies throughout Canada on a whole whole different investigations right now, but I can't speak to their investigation, unfortunately.
And I also want to ask you, of course, there was a lot of, public outrage about this death. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau linked it to foreign interference. Is there any link between these suspects and the government of India, or what can you say about that?
So we are investigating if there are any ties to the government of India. However, as I said, it's an ongoing investigation, and I don't have any information to provide on that matter at this time.
What's the immigration status of these individuals?
Currently, all three individuals are non-permanent residents in Canada. However, I can't speak to their specific immigration status.
Can you detail how the Games Squad, how SAU was involved, what role they played?
They provided members and support throughout our investigation, along with intelligence.
And why were the information sheets sworn in screw screw?
I would have to get back to you on that piece.
Are you looking for more suspects?
Currently, we believe that there may be others involved, and therefore there may be potential arrests or charges for others as well.
And would they be in Alberta as well, or anywhere?
I can't speak to that.
Can you speak about the partner agencies and whether they involve overseas, US or UK or Australia?
So we have been liaising with international partners, and we have collaborated with them on this investigation.
All of those or any particular?
I can't speak to exactly who.
Were these three men arrested? Were they known to the police before?
They were not known to the police.
Have you been getting much cooperation from India?
I can't speak to that piece, but maybe Assistant Commissioner Tabul can.
So I could tell you that the federal policing program has collaborated and communicated with partner agencies in India, and that collaboration, communication continues to this day.
How would you characterize that collaboration? Are they giving you everything you need? Is it?
I'll be frank, I'll characterize that collaboration as rather challenging and difficult for the last several years. However, the RCMP is very committed to continuing to establish a working relationship from a law enforcement to law enforcement agency. So we're going to continue our efforts, but it's been difficult.
Sorry, you said it dated back how many years?
Several years.
And can you pinpoint when that started? That difficulty?
Oh, well, listen, over the last, I'm talking in my tenure in federal policing, it's been several years. I would argue the last 6-7 years.
En français, est-ce qu'on pourrait
Absolument, monsieur.
avoir un commentaire sur vos relations entre
Nos relations entre la GRC et les agences indiennes. Oui, notre collaboration avec les agences d'application de la loi indiennes ont commencé, je dirais, il y a 6 ou 7 ans, durant ma présence, évidemment, à la police fédérale. Je peux caractériser cette relation comme une relation qui est difficile pour plusieurs raisons, auxquelles je ne peux pas élaborer. Mais toutefois, la GRC est dédiée à l'amélioration de cette relation et l'établissement d'une relation productive entre deux agences d'application de la loi, la Gendarmerie royale du Canada et la police nationale indienne.
Dans quelle direction va l'enquête à partir de maintenant?
De quelle enquête parlez-vous? Parce que comme je l'ai dit un peu plus tôt, il y a plusieurs enquêtes en cours. Il y a l'enquête, évidemment, des homicides pour laquelle nous sommes ici pour parler des résultats de 3 personnes arrêtées et accusées. Mais comme je vous l'ai dit au départ, il y a aussi l'existence de plusieurs autres enquêtes en cours actuellement qui sont très actives.
How long have they been in Canada, these suspects, and did they come on student visas?
Again, I won't be able to speak to their immigration status, but they have been here between 3 to 5 years.
Each of them.
Altogether, 3 to 5 years.
Just you mentioned that there's still some more people that you may be arresting and charging at a future date. What would you say to the Sikh community that might be a little bit alarmed at that idea?
What I would say is there's always the potential on these type of investigations because of how complex it is. That's why these individuals were charged with the conspiracy to commit murder. So there may be others involved. We don't ever want to say that the investigation has stopped. However, we have been partnering with all of our partner agencies to make sure that the community is safe.
And how should we think about these individuals? Are they guns for hire? Is that the sort of what we should be picturing in our mind?
I think that would be, what we would want to say is throughout the court process, the evidence will show the roles that these individuals played. Then I would suggest that the community would be able to really understand the roles of what these people actually did. So I would let the evidence speak to what their assumptions for these individuals would be once they go through the court
And
process.
they were arrested in Edmonton?
Correct. Yeah.
Are you able to say whether these three men at the time of the arrest were together or were they arrested separately?
Arrested separately.
Were American agencies involved at all, and is there a nexus with their investigations that you'll charge of last year?
That's good.
Can I answer that? Superintendent Mooker earlier made reference to our collaboration with partners, both domestic and foreign, and I can confirm that we've had constant, and we continue to have constant collaboration with agencies, again, both domestic and international. And that includes agencies in the United States.
Is there a nexus with their investigation behind the charges that happened last year?
You're referring, I'm assuming, about Mr. Pernun, the indictment. I can't comment really any further on that and their indictment or the ongoing investigations that we have. However, they are mutual. These investigations are of mutual interest.
How are these arrests connected to the Edmonton shooting deaths of Harpreet Appel and 11-year-old son Gavin? And the question for Commissioner Tabul, because you've already had.
Sorry, go again with your questions. The connections to?
Yeah, how are today's arrests connected to the Edmonton shooting deaths of Harpreet Appel and his 11-year-old son Gavin?
So thank you for the question. Great question. I can't comment again, as Superintendent Mooker stated earlier, on another agency's active investigation. What I could tell you is within the federal policing program, a coordination team was born, specifically out of the RCMP here in BC, to support and collaborate with all the other domestic agencies that have a variety of investigations underway currently. So I will not comment on that specific investigation, except to tell you that we are very aggressively collaborating with all our partner agencies across the country.
Okay, and when will these three suspects, if they were arrested in Edmonton, when will they be brought back to BC for a court date?
So they will be required to be here by Monday morning.
Can you unpack which partner agencies or units within the RCMP you worked with? Was INSET involved? Which divisions were involved?
There was numerous partner agencies, internally and externally, that were involved. INSET was one of them, definitely. But we had a whole collaboration of agencies and units that we worked with. The list would go on and on.
Which provinces?
I would say at least 3 or 4 provinces. I'm not going to speak to exactly what provinces because we do have ongoing investigations currently.
Say anything more about the future potential suspects and arrests? Are they definitely still in Canada? How many people is it?
Again, when it comes to ongoing investigations, I will not speak to that. Just to jeopardize any of those investigations, I can't speak to that at this time.
The allegations are that agents of the Indian government orchestrated Mr. Nijjar's killing. So what links do these 3 co-accused have to the Indian government?
So right now, we're investigating their ties, if any, to the Indian government. However, that's part of our ongoing investigation.
Can you confirm what date the men were arrested and provide more details about the circumstances under which they were arrested?
They were arrested this morning, all in Edmonton, and at differing times. I don't have those times.
Were they at home when they were arrested?
From my information, 2 of the individuals were at home, 1 was not.
Given the location of the conspiracy offense, it's safe to say you're alleging they planned the murder here from Edmonton?
Again, that would be part of the evidence, and I won't speak to that at this time.
It's in the charge sheet.
The conspiracy could be either planned here or in Edmonton. It could be either or. The evidence is going to show what the timeline of that conspiracy and when it occurred.
Were they members of a temple of Gurdwara here or in Edmonton or anywhere else?
I don't have that information.
And what was the circumstance? Did they resist arrest? Did they cooperate?
The 3 men were taken in custody without any issues or concerns.
Would you be releasing their last name or their alias names or previous names?
We're going to be releasing their legal names.
Besides Hardeep Singh Nijjar, there has been threat to other Sikh activists as well. So do these suspects have any link to them? Have they made any collaboration, any evidence?
What I can say is that we are investigating the murder of Hardeep Nijjar, and that's what I can speak to at this point, not any other investigations or any other threats.
You kind of spoke to it before about the Sikh community, but, you know, there was a time when Indians were not flying to India because of fear of safety, and, you know, this is a prominent activist. People are afraid to speak up, and they're afraid to speak their opinion. What can you say to the Sikh community on that note and ensure that they're kept safe?
Yeah, what I can say is that we would not be at this point without the bravery and courage of the Sikh community coming forward for Hardeep Nijjar's murder investigation. They were brave and courageous to come forward, and I believe that they would continue to do that for future investigations as well.
Yeah, I have a question. So there have been rumors that these 3 arrested people might have connections with the Lawrence missionary gang, which is from India. So do you think that's right?
I'll turn it over to Assistant Commissioner.
So, again, I mentioned this earlier, and it speaks to several of your questions. There are several ongoing investigations currently in a lot of the matters that you are curious about. Of course, they're active investigations. The integrity of these investigations, we will not comment any further. The nature of the offenses under investigation or who's under investigation. And to your earlier questions, there's collaboration through a variety of units. Remember, the federal policing program and the RCMP is a nationwide organization. And within federal policing alone, there's also several programs that are involved or taking conduct of the investigations underway.
Has the Indian consulate contacted?
Consul,
Have they requested any information regarding the people that have been arrested?
I will not comment on any communication with consular officials or these things, no.
Can I ask about...
Kim?
Can I ask about the start of the conspiracy? According to the CSO entry, it was May 1st of 2023. Could it have gone back earlier? Are these people potentially sleeper agents that have been in the country for a number of years?
So, great question, thank you. We're not at liberty to answer that specific question, of course, because they are a matter, it is a great question, but it is a matter very much at the center of evidence and ongoing investigations.
Et commissaire, pouvez-vous nous donner plus d'informations sur ce que votre collègue a dit à propos de l'âge des personnes qui ont été interpellées et de leurs accusations et aussi de leur statut d'immigration ici au Canada?
D'accord. Do you have just a list? I'll translate the list of names. Monsieur Karen Borhar, 22 ans, citoyen de l'Inde, qui résidait à Edmonton, en Alberta. Monsieur Kamalpreet Singh, aussi également 22 ans et également un citoyen indien et résident de l'Alberta, d'Edmonton particulièrement. Monsieur Karenpreet Singh, âgé de 28 ans, aussi citoyen indien et résident de Edmonton, en Alberta.
Depuis combien de temps était-il au Canada?
Différentes dates, mais ils sont arrivés entre les 3 et 5 dernières années.
Et avec leurs accusations aujourd'hui, que pouvez-vous nous dire sur leur connexion avec d'autres enquêtes en cours?
Avec la connexion de ces 3 hommes, avec d'autres conspirations. Écoutez, ces 3 individus ont été arrêtés aujourd'hui et mis en accusation ou sous accusation, particulièrement avec l'enquête des homicides. Et les autres enquêtes qui sont en cours, évidemment, je ne peux pas faire de commentaires sur l'implication de ces individus ou de d'autres individus dans les enquêtes qui sont en cours.
Were the suspects known to police? Like, have they ever been charged in any
like, is the allegation that they were, or is the belief that they were living in Edmonton at the time, drove to Surrey, and then drove back?
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit more how they even came to your radar? Like, I appreciate you can't go full into details, but, you know, any sort of inkling on how they kind of came to your radar?
Yeah, I won't be able to speak to that because that directly goes into the evidence in regards to how they were identified, which I won't be able to speak to.
Does RCMP have grounds to believe that these three men were in Surrey at the time Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot?
Yes.
Any more details on the vehicle other than it being a Corolla? Do we know anything else?
I would have to get back to you in regards to further details, but I'm sure Sergeant Parati would be able to release that information.
Are there grounds to believe that these individuals arrived on a student visa?
Again, I'm not able to speak to the immigration status.
Are these suspects related to the missionary gang in India?
I believe Assistant Commissioner Duboul answered that previously. We're not able to speak to that piece.
Given that you're not allowed to share a lot of the evidence and motives that you've gathered, what is your message to the community who is probably having all kinds of speculations about what occurred right now?
My messaging to the community would be that the RCMP as a whole works together collaboratively along with all of our agencies across Canada to make sure that we provide justice to those people that are put in these positions by these offenders.
Before, in between May 1st and the date of Mr. Nijjar's killing last year, how many times were the suspects in Surrey?
I don't have that information.
You talked about the community helping a lot with investigations. How important were they in finding these men?
I would say instrumental.
Can you expand on that?
I cannot, because that would go directly to their
There are
evidence.
people in the community that still have threats against their lives walking around now. What would be the message to them?
I would say if there is a threat and they feel a threat, please contact the police and let us investigate that and feel comfort in the level of investigation that we've done, not only in this investigation but for others, leading us to us being able to charge 3 individuals for the murder of Mr. Nijjar.
Are these 3 linked to any of the duty to warn incidents in the past couple of years?
So from the related questions I see, listen, the RCMP take all of these information that come to our attention very seriously in all business lines of the RCMP, from the detachment to, of course, homicide investigations to federal policing. To your question about former duty to warrants, I will repeat the same thing. Every piece of information that we receive is examined, and we have, and in many cases, it has triggered in the past, as you are alluding to, obligations for duty to warrants. We have a very elaborate and strict protocol when it comes to that. We don't mess around with threats that we may receive, and we engage in those duty to warrants very quickly.
But are those threats negated with these 3 now arrested?
Well, listen, every time you take dangerous offenders off the street, it significantly mitigates issues of public safety, for sure.
You won't say whether they're linked to any of the other duty warrants?
I can't get into that specifically.
Given that these 3 people were recently arrived in the country in the last 3 years, RCMP is probably looking or might have already looked at their background. For that information, have you reached out to the government of India? Or if you are going to reach out, how is that working out for RCMP?
So I could tell you that, again, as I stated earlier, we very much welcome collaboration with the government of India, and it's certainly its law enforcement agency from police to police. And I can't comment on further on previous communications with these agencies.
Where else have they resided in Canada in the 3 to 5 years they've been there?
I can only speak to them residing in Edmonton currently. However, I don't have that information.
Have the 3 suspects,
Last question.
have the 3 suspects, since they arrived, to change their facial features or anything?
Yes.
Merci tout le monde. Thank you, everybody. J'ai manqué ma chance de lire les commentaires de M. Mooker, Superintendent Mooker. Si tu veux que je lis ses commentaires en français, on peut parler après. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. Thanks.